In today's video, I'll show you how to install the Grocery Getter Performance throttle body spacer for the E210 2.0 liter Corolla. It's an easy bolt-on mod, so let's get started. First, use a pair of pliers to remove the mass airflow sensor connector. You can probably do this with just your hands, but it's a little difficult for me while trying to hold the camera at it. Next, use a flathead and loosen the hose clamp closest to the air intake box. Then, you'll undo the two latches on the sides of the airbox. And then lift up and pull the airbox housing out of the rubber intake tubing. Now you want to pull this valve assembly up and out of the rubber intake tubing and use a bungee cord or string to gently keep it up and out of your way like shown in the video. Once that's done, compress this clamp on the vent tube and pull the hose off the intake tubing. Now you'll loosen the hose clamp on the air intake tubing that's closest to the throttle body and then pull the tubing off. Take note of the alignment notches on the tubing and throttle body, as that's how you'll reinstall it later. Now we have full access to remove our throttle body, but there's a couple things I want you to take note of. First, you can see behind the throttle body, there's a rubber gasket with this square mesh on the top half portion of the intake path. You must ensure that if your gasket falls off, that you reinstall it in this orientation, or else it'll throw a check engine light. This is also a good time to clean any carbon buildup on the flange, depending on your mileage. This video won't cover cleaning it, but the Car Care Nut has a great video on cleaning Toyota throttle bodies correctly. Now to remove the throttle body, you'll need an 8mm socket to loosen the 3 bolts highlighted in yellow. I recommend you break all 3 loose first, then remove the bottom 2, and finally the top one last to make sure they don't fall inside the engine bay. Now to install the spacer, place it behind the OEM throttle body, but make sure the rubber gasket included on the spacer is facing the throttle body side and not the intake manifold side. The gasket with the square mesh is what seals the intake manifold against the throttle body spacer once it's all tightened down. Essentially, you are sandwiching the spacer between the manifold and throttle body. Using one of the new bolts supplied with the spacer, insert the top bolt first and gently push it through the throttle body, then the spacer, and finally into the manifold. Hand tighten it to get the threads started, and then repeat the process with the other 2 bolts. Make sure you are not cross-threading them. They should all hand tighten with minimal resistance. Ensuring all 3 are aligned is the most difficult part, but just be patient. Once all the threads are engaged, evenly tighten them down. Don't tighten one all the way and move on to the next. Just give one a couple turns and then the next and so forth. There are no torque specs for these, just snug and firm. Now that all 3 bolts are tightened down, look over the seams and make sure the gaskets are seated properly and not sticking out. The surfaces should all appear flush and smooth, like so. Next, just reinstall the intake components in the order opposite of removal, and you're done. I hope this video gave you a better idea of how to install the spacer, and if it did, then give the video a like, drop a comment below, and of course subscribe for more Corolla Hatchback videos. All the links will be in the description, and thanks for watching.